Hi everyone, welcome to the Knitting Turnpike. To the Knitting Turnpike. My name is Gina Pike. I'm so happy that you're here today. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about a project that is not something I was going to do, but I am getting inundated with a ton of questions about beads lately, and I thought I would go ahead and try to answer as many questions in this one video as I possibly can, so that maybe it will help guide you guys and give you guys some insight on how to add beads to your projects. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to pick a bead, especially if a bead is not specified in your project. A lot of projects I've done, the beads are specified, so I know that I'm going to pick this kind of yarn. It tells me to pick this kind of bead. Easy peasy, right? Just go by what they tell you to do. But sometimes you have a project that you want to put a little bling on and you're not sure where to start. So that's what I'm hoping this video will help you figure out and get you started on adding beads to your projects. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a crochet project or a knitted project. You can add beads to any one of your projects. And you can do it the same way with a crochet hook. I have a video on how to add beads to your projects. I did this one of the very first videos I ever made when I started my YouTube channel. I'll link it here. Please go check it out. It works the same way for crochet and knitting. It doesn't matter. You just add it to your stitch, whether it's a crochet stitch or a knitted stitch. The same way. So that tells you how to add them. Maybe some of you guys have said, where do you shop for beads? There are quite a few places to shop for beads. Beads are pretty popular if you think about it. I mean, beads are used in all kinds of things besides knitting or crochet. I mean, they're used for ornaments, Christmas ornaments. They're used for all kinds of other crafts. They're used for stitch markers. They're used for jewelry. Home furnishings, add beads to wall hangings. There's all kinds of places where beads is a part of your life that you really don't think about it until you start looking and shopping for beads, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I could buy beads at the hardware store. Sometimes I would recommend you guys use seed beads because well, I mean, it depends on what effect you're going for, but the hole sizes are pretty regular, and I'm going to be talking about the hole sizes here in a minute. But I find that seed beads just work best. I mean, I know there are some really beautiful beads, like wooden beads, I don't know what they're called right off the top of my head, the crystal beads. They look like a gem that's all faceted on each side. There's bugle beads, triangle beads. There's a ton of different kinds of beads. It's really whatever you want to add to your project. Be creative. If you want to try some of those other beads, try them. You know, there's no harm in trying something new. But for my projects, I'm only use the seed beads. It's kind of what was recommended when I first started adding beads to my work. I have knitted quite a few items with beads, mostly shawls. I've knitted 5 or 6 shawls now with beads, mainly covered with beads. And like I said, I use mainly the seed beads. The things that you have to really consider when you're looking at adding a bead to your project, and there is no, say like you're just picking up a pattern, there's really no beads on it at all. A lot of designers, when you have beads added to your patterns, they tell you where to place it. They tell you what type of beads to buy. They tell you, you know, what type of bead and what type of size to buy. So it's kind of spelled out for you. But in this instance, if you don't know, if you're just going to add beads to your project, there are some things you need to consider. And the first thing I think you want to consider is the yarn that you're going to be using for your project. Because not You cannot, so there are some yarns that will not work with beads. The yarn is a little bit too thick. So I mainly use lace and fingering weight yarns or sock yarn. Those are size 0 and 1 weights. Those mainly, the bead size I use with that is mainly like a seed bead size 6/0, which is a 4mm bead. I do have a chart here that I will put that shows a little bit about the sizes of beads, and the thing you need to know when you're shopping for beads is that a lot of the seed beads that you'll see has like 2 numbers. It'll have like a number, slash, and mostly 0 is the next number. And you want to remember when you're buying beads, you want to, the smaller the number, the larger the hole is going to be. So size 3/0 is going to be the largest hole size on a bead. You will see them go up in size up to, like, 6/0, 5/0, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even 15/0. But when you get up to that 15/0, the hole size on that bead is going to be really, 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 really tiny. And when you're working with yarns, it won't work. So the rule of thumb that I use to make it more simple is that when you're using yarns, lace, fingering, and some DK weight, as long as it's not like a really heavy, thick DK weight yarn, I would use a size 6/0 bead. If you have a worsted weight yarn, it needs to be like a thinner worsted weight yarn, not a very thick, like close to an Aran weight. It needs to be kind of a thin. If you're going to use a worsted weight, you could possibly get by with a size 5/0 bead. So I recommend size 6/0 or size 5/0 only, and only for yarns up to worsted weight. Anything larger than that, I would not add a bead to it. I would pick a different yarn for my project. Meant to mention is that when doing beads, I said 6/0 and 5/0. I do think if you're using some lace weight yarns, very light fingering weight yarns, light fingering, you can possibly push it up to a size 8/0 bead. This bead right here, this bead is a size 8/0 bead. I want to show you a difference in circumference in these beads. I have a size 8/0 bead next to a size 6/0 bead, so you guys can see the difference in circumference. And again, the turquoise bead is a size 8/0. The purple bead is a size 6/0. I think a size 8/0 would be pushing it. Again, you need to use these beads only with a very lightweight fingering or lace weight yarn. The 8/0. Now the 6/0 I think you can use for lace fingering and a very light DK weight or DK weight. The other thing you have to consider when you're choosing a bead is color. You want to look at the yarn that you're going to use for your project. So you've looked at the size, which tells you what size bead to buy, but you also have to look at the color of your yarn. And there are a couple of ways to do this. Most people recommend that you unwind your yarn, that you string your beads that you're going to evaluate onto your yarn, and look at the art, because it's kind of like it would look as if it were knitted. Now I'm kind of lazy and I don't like to do that a lot, so I have this method. I call it the TurnPike lazy method of choosing beads, and I've shared this before in another video. I'll link it above and let you guys choose if you want to go watch it. I might say it a little bit differently, might explain it a little bit better, but I picked 3 different color beads I have in my stash, which, by the way, I'm going to show you. My box of beads is about probably 10 pounds of beads, and they're not organized. They're all just in there, but this one box is overflowing. I need to organize it. It's part of my going to be organizing my craft room this year, but I haven't yet. So you can see I have a lot of seed beads, a lot of different colors. I will say this as a warning: before you start shopping for beads, it's a little bit like yarn shopping. It can get a little bit addictive. You start seeing all these different beads and all these different colors, and you want to buy all of them, and it's like the more you get, the more you want to buy, and they're beautiful. There are so many different types of beads these days. There are metallic beads, there's shiny beads, there's matte beads, there's these beads called Picasso beads, which are multicolored. So there's a lot of, just like yarn, there's so many types of beads that you can pick that it just makes it really fun to shop for, but also a little bit addictive. So be careful before you get into this, and be warned that it can get expensive, and it can easily end up with a big old box of beads like I have. Anyway, let's get back to picking these beads. All I've done for these is I've taken beads that I want, and now these colors do not go with this. That's the other thing, is if you are having trouble figuring out what color you want to use, you can always use a color wheel and look at the main color in your yarn, and you know, like say like you have a violet yarn, you know, directly across from the violet is, if you want something that's going to stand out and pop on your yarn, you could pick directly across from that. A contrast is a yellow green. Anything in this family here would go with these purples here, and it would really pop on your yarn. Or you can go with something that's super matchy, you know, and it just gives a little bit of shimmer. But color wheels are your friend when you're trying to help pick out colors that you think, if you want a big contrast, or if you want something that's going to blend a little bit. You know, if you want something that's going to blend a little bit, say you have something like this, then you'd want to go for more like complementary colors, like the blues and the different shades of purple. You don't want to do a yellow, which is an opposite complementary, you know, an opposite color that's going to give a lot of pop on your yarn. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, please don't hesitate to put some comments down below, or questions down below. Now, another thing I do for this, you know, I told you stringing the beads on your yarn. This is my lazy method. I take a T-pin and I put a few beads on my T-pin like this. Let's see. There we go. And then I just stick it into my yarn like that. And then I can turn it and look at it with the light and try to see what colors I like. Again, I picked 3 crazy colors so you guys could see what they all look like in against this. But you know, I just can kind of twist and turn it and take a look at it. And again, you can stick as many pins in here with beads as you want. It's just my lazy method of doing it, instead of having to string all of these beads on the yarn and then unstring them, and you know, speeds it up a little bit. But you do want to pick a color that you're going to like on your project. If you're going to make your project and you're going to go to the trouble to buy beads and add beads, you do want to pick a color that you think is going to look great with it. And it, like I said, it doesn't have to be a color like that's super matchy, like this one is super matchy. It could be something like this that is totally not anything in this color wheel, but you think is going to pop and give it a lot of bling. Now, I'm not saying I like this. I'm just saying that it's just something totally different and out there, and definitely gives you a bunch of contrast. So it's something that you can just remember. You want to pick color, and you have to pick the whole size and the yarn you're using. As far as places that I like to buy my beads, there are 3 big stores that I like to shop from, online stores. The first one is called Fire Mountain Gems. Love their store, love their selection of beads. The second one is Art Beads. And the third one is Aura Crystals. Now, a lot of times those places sell out. So sometimes if they're sold out of a bead that I'm absolutely in love with and I really want for my project, there is another place I will go and recommend that you guys go check out, and that is Etsy. You can put in the type of bead you're looking for, the name, the size, and there will be sometimes be a few bead suppliers on Etsy that you can buy from. And the thing I like about recommending Etsy and the suppliers on Etsy for beads is that they're going to have in the description what you're getting. I think it will be of high quality, and they will ship, most of them will ship anywhere. So I think that's really good. The other thing I didn't really mention is that sometimes I like to go to the bigger stores too, like the bead stores, because I know I'm going to get a good quality bead. Sometimes when you buy beads and you think, oh my gosh, you know, on the bead store it's $5 for a box of these dynamites, but then you go on to like Amazon and you find some supplier who's going to sell these for $1. Sometimes you can get what you pay for, and you won't actually get what you're paying for. Sometimes those beads that you find for super cheap, they may not have a great quality control, and maybe they really weren't made at the same factory. And sometimes the beads will come where the holes are all different sizes. That's kind of why I like to stay more in the seed bead area, and I also kind of focus on Japanese seed beads because they tend to have a better quality control, and the holes are mostly usable, you know. And I don't want to buy beads and throw half of them away because I can't put them on my yarn, or I can't get my hook through them to put them on my yarn. I think I have answered where to buy beads, how to pick beads based on yarn size, hole size, color. The last thing is how many do you want to buy? If you have a project you're going to be adding beads to and you don't know where to put them because, you know, a designer hasn't specified, you know, the easiest thing to do is kind of take a look at the picture of the project that you're making. Usually there is a picture of the project, unless it's a mystery, but you take a look at the picture and just take a moment or several moments and try to figure out where would be a good place to add the beads. Like, say you're making a top, you want to add beads around the collar just to give it a little bit of a flare, or you want to add beads around the edge of the sleeve, or you want to do beads every 10 rows. You know, you can take a picture, even make a copy of the picture and play with it, you know, kind of try to see what, you know, take a marker in the color of the beads you're going to be using and kind of draw some beads on the copy and just see what it looks like. And and that way it kind of gives you an idea of what it might look like before you go through the motions of making it and then realize that you don't like it. So I really do recommend evaluating your project, trying to figure out where you want to get an idea for where you want to place some beads before you get started. That also helps you determine how many beads you want to buy and not overbuy or underbuy. Sometimes if you underbuy, you get into a problem as well. It's kind of like yarn chicken. You try to go back, they might be sold out, and then if you get a different lot of beads, they might be a slightly different color than the beads that you have. So you want to make sure you always buy the right number of beads. I would always overbuy than underbuy, but you don't want to overbuy too much because you don't want, you know, a whole bunch of beads lying around that you don't have projects for. So you got to kind of find that right happy medium for how many to buy. So that does involve spending a little bit of time evaluating your project and trying to figure out how many beads you want to buy before you go buy some. So I do hope you found this video helpful. I know it's a ton of information, and honestly I feel like I could probably talk for a few more hours about beads and colors and how to put them on there and do's and don'ts. I mean, so when beads are a whole nother world. You open up a whole nother world to your project, and it's a whole nother thing. But anyway, I do hope you found this helpful. If you have, please give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them down below. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you being here. If you are if you are new here and you like watching videos about knitting and crochet, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. If you are a subscriber, thank you. Thank you guys so much for always being here, supporting me, watching these videos, and making comments. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you all very, very soon. Thank you so much.